Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. A sincere welcome and thank you for joining today's True Talk Employment After Deployment. I'm Matt Jones, TrueCar's Communications Director. And before anything, I would like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to join this conversation. True Talk and Industry Insider is a show that I kicked off about 3 years ago. And the idea of the show was to bring on some of the industry's best and brightest minds onto this safe space so we could talk about some of the things that are going on in automotive, share some tips, some tactics, some techniques. And the idea is through these conversations, we could all just get a little bit better, whether you be a vendor or a seller or whoever you are, you can come in and learn some stuff that you may not see otherwise. But today we're doing something very, very special. We're going to be talking about something that is near and dear to all of our hearts, everybody in automotive and hopefully everybody outside of automotive. And that is supporting our military and our veterans. Now here at TrueCar, if you know anything about our company, you know that that's something that we take very seriously. We support veterans through military organizations like Team RWB, DAV, and of course through our philanthropic arm, Driven to Drive. But one of the ways that you can also support veterans and military members is by helping create an environment where folks coming out of the service can thrive. And so I happen to think, and the folks at TrueCar happen to think, and so do the people who are joining me on the show happen to think, that automotive might be one of those spaces. So what I've done today is I've invited 5 military veterans who now serve in the automotive sector to discuss why people who are transitioning out of the military should consider the automotive industry as a place of employment after deployment. And with that, I'm not going to do any more talking. I'm going to kick us off by bringing in some of our guests. So first, I'm going to start with Eliana.
Hi, how are you, Matt? I'm so glad you're doing this again. I know you did it last year, and this is just something to really, really celebrate. And I thank you and the great folks over at TrueCar. And it was so great last year, and I can't believe we're recreating the magic. And it's right after Memorial Day, too. So what a perfect time to do that. So thank you, sir, so much for having me here.
My pleasure. Next up, we've got Fred.
Hey, what's going on? So honored to be here. Come on, TrueCar, thank you so much. And Matt Jones, Eliana, and then the other guests that are getting ready to come on. Man, I'm so blessed to be here. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about veterans in this automotive industry. That's so great.
Brenna.
Hi, everybody. It's so great to be here. Thank you for including me. What an honor to be on this panel with other military veterans, and hopefully we provide some great insight for others.
Oh, I think we will. And Lou, wrapping up the bunch.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? So excited to be here with each of you. Thank you again, TrueCar, for doing this again. Eliana, we're back for round 2, right? Having some fun. Matt, thank you so much for bringing us back over here. So happy to have Brenna and Fred up inside of the party. But thank you for taking the time to honor all the vets and all those that are watching. We're just so grateful to be here. So thankful.
Before we really dig in, because of course we all know each other, I want to ask everybody to just talk for just a brief moment of what arm of the military you served in when you were in the service and what you do now. And Fred, let's start with you.
Well, thank you. I served in the United States Air Force, very honored, from 97 to 2001. What a blessing. Now I'm in automotive, been in automotive for over 20 years. We do training and consulting. We also have a podcast called Car Guy Coffee. It's been an honor to be out there to share the great news of automotive.
Brenna.
I am going to give away my age. So I was in the U.S. Navy from 1983 to 1988. Both of I'm the first in our family to have joined the military. My brother also joined after I did, and I have 2 sons that both served. One in the U.S. Navy, one in the Marines, and one is currently in the U.S. Air Force.
Nice.
So I can't pick sides.
Hoorah! That's right.
Eliana.
U.S. Navy with my girl Brenna over here. Yeah, U.S. Navy, 8 years from 88 to 95. I was in during the Gulf War. Looking back on my time as a youngster fresh out of high school, I can't believe how much responsibility was thrust upon my shoulders, but how much growth I did during those 8 years. I currently serve as the Chief Marketing Officer for Dealer eProcess, which is a technology company out of Chicago. You can find out a whole lot more about what we do and how we serve at dealereprocess.com.
And rounding up is Lou.
Hey, I was in the military from 2000 to 2004, the U.S. Army. Was honored to be able to be part of the service during the Operation Iraqi Freedom. Very, very, very thankful for how it did transition me into a military town. And almost as a last order from my post sergeant major, he pointed me towards the car business where his daughter was working at, and started there, which is where I met Fred. I am now the CEO of Solutions at Certified Solutionaries and the co-host of the Car Guy Coffee podcast, where we are brewing solutions, because, you know, the military folks got to have their cups of joe.
I love this. I can already tell this is going to be a fun conversation. This is going to be good. So I've got a couple questions for you guys, okay? And all of you guys have done conversations like this, and you've had a lot of panels like this. And so we know that although there may be a structure, that's only going to last for a minute or so, okay? So let's just wait for this conversation to just fly like it's normally going to do. But the first question I'm going to throw to the group, and I think I'm going to land with you first, Eliana. But the first question is, why should someone who is winding down their military career consider automotive as the next step?
Oh, you're starting me off with the softball question. All right. Well, this is great because we actually talked about this, and Lou, you'll remember this, of course, too, last year on the TrueCar episode about veterans, employment after deployment. And in that, I was so fortunate that you guys made a clip of it and then released it. But in my little diatribe, I gave 10 great reasons why automotive is perfect for veterans. And real fast, because I have them written down here, the 10 reasons were veterans have an accelerated learning curve. They get it right in a short period of time. They have incredible leadership skills. They have experience with diversity and inclusion. They have efficient performance under pressure. I think we all can agree on that. They have a respect for procedures and chain of command. They know a lot about technology because all of the military, the different military branches have a very introspect on technology. And of course, integrity is a huge one. Of course, we all have attention to detail. And then the last one was they all know something about triumph over adversity. They all have that resiliency, that how they adapt and overcome. So I covered all of those the last time we talked about this. But you know what? I got a few more to add to the list. So gear up, everyone. Here we go. So some more compelling reasons why a dealership, or really any business really, should consider hiring a military veteran. Number one, discipline. Military veterans have been trained in a very disciplined and structured environment, and they understand the importance of time management and accountability. And that makes them very valuable assets to any organization. Number two, and Brenna, we were talking about this earlier, strong work ethic. Military veterans are known for their strong work ethic, their dedication, their commitment. So believe me when I tell you, we are accustomed to working long hours, to meeting deadlines, and to going above and beyond to accomplish tasks. And it's that kind of that level of dedication that can contribute to increased productivity and overall like team motivation for your entire team. This next one, transferable skill sets. So military veterans, we are exposed to, we possess a wide range of skills and expertise gained during all of our times of service. We receive extensive training in areas you might not think of, but they're all connected. So like cybersecurity, for instance, and logistics and project management, communication, and even crisis management and so many more. And those are the kinds of things that every business can benefit from an employee that has this large set of kinds of transferable skills. So look to a military veteran for that. Teamwork and collaboration. Veterans understand the value of teamwork and collaboration more than anyone. And having worked closely with a diverse group of individuals from all different backgrounds, from every place, from all different, you name it. different backgrounds, different cultures during their military service. They can seamlessly integrate themselves into a new team. And that fosters like a positive work environment. And, that leads to a more cohesive and productive workforce. If you can put somebody in there that just, fits right in. And that's what a military veteran can do for you. And then dedication to mission and goals. Veterans are accustomed to working toward a mission that's larger than themselves. And they understand the importance of achieving goals. And what they're going to do is they're going to align themselves, their efforts with those objectives for your business. And they're going to make really, really strong contributions to the overall success of any organization. So that's not something to be overlooked. And then the final thing that I wrote down, and I think this is a really good one for every business too, is corporate social responsibility. So if you hire a veteran, that will be seen as a demonstration of corporate social responsibility. So let's call it improving your optics. Supporting veterans' employment will only enhance your company's reputation across your community, to your customers, and within your industry. So military veterans bring a wealth of skills. They bring experience. They bring qualities that can positively impact your business. And from their leadership abilities to problem-solving skills, a strong work ethic, as well as their adaptability and diverse backgrounds, of all of these combine to make military veterans very valuable assets. They make first-rate employees. So go on out there and get yourself some. Go hire some veterans, and you'll be glad you did.
Is that it?
Heck yeah! Heck yeah! Woo!
Well
Look,
said.
I'm
Very
about to go
well
down.
said.
That well done. I'm in Long Beach, but I want to drive down to Camp Pendleton right now and set up a job fair right off the 5 freeway for everybody who's driving in and out. That's incredible.
That's right.
That is definitely
Powerful.
incredible. These are some of the things that you bring up, Eliana. It's like I couldn't help but think you're talking about bringing fully formed human beings into your workplace, and I'm not saying that other people are not, but we're talking about, when we think about employment after deployment, we're often talking about people who maybe are 22, 24, 26, who don't, maybe they haven't lived a whole, life outside of controlled school, like, and if you think about other 24-year-olds, 26-year-olds, and they may not have those social, that social mastery of working together as a team, understanding big pictures, understanding the value of hierarchy and the importance of integrity. I've never really looked at it from that point of view of like, you're discussing people who are maybe further advanced psychologically in who they are as people than their age would necessarily dictate. I think that's a very, very, very important. I think that you did a fantastic job, and I feel sorry for whoever's going to get that question next. So before me calling on somebody, does somebody want to volunteer to come in after Eliana? Because that's going to be a tough one. Lou, you got your finger on your nose. I saw you got you on mute. I'm about to take you off.
That's nose goes. That's nose goes. That's what my kids do when it's not their turn. Nope, somebody else.
Well,
Brenna,
I'm glad I could
this is
cover
yours.
all of this. I just want you to know, it's so funny because right before the show, Brenna and I were talking because she had said that her son, who's the Marine, actually works at her dealership. And I said, now, why did you go on ahead and hire him? It couldn't just be nepotism, right? And her answer was actually one of mine, which was strong work ethic. And I'd like to pick on you, Brenna, because I want you to take up the mantle just about how strong that work ethic is, especially, and look, I'm in the Navy, but man, Marines have something special going on when it comes to work ethic. So why don't you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate you making me follow you. That's really awesome. I'm gonna walk away after this Zoom call and go take a presentation on Zoom class somewhere. I'm gonna get my background right and maybe be a little better prepared next time. But for me, it's super simple. For one, I've been there. I've done it. I understand the transition. I understand how difficult it is to find your place again, because when you're in the military, you are in a very small tunnel and you're very structured and you're very taken care of, and you just do what you're told because that's what you do or you get in trouble. So when it comes to, transitioning from military into what I've always called the real world, because it's completely different. And like I said, I got out in '88. Things have changed so much between then and now in the military itself that I can't really talk to that. But I do know that when continually looking for employees, we're a small dealership in Northern California. We're constantly looking for employees. When I have a resume come in and I see that they're former military, that tells me that all of those things that Eliana just described is already instilled in that person. They already have all of those amazing qualities that you hope to find half of those qualities in somebody. So when my son had transitioned out of the Marines probably 8 years ago, and he's had some other jobs. But when I saw the opportunity, because he wasn't happy at his other job, to bring him onto our job, onto running our service department, it was a no-brainer for me. It wasn't because he was my son. It was because he shows up to work every day. He's on time to work every day. If he doesn't have something to do, he finds something to do because of that work ethic that he has. He can't just sit around. He's always constantly looking for ways to improve our processes and our procedures, because you can't stay at that same level that you've always been. You can't always do it the way you've always done it, because technology is growing and because things are changing, and we always have to adapt and learn and maneuver. And so bringing my son in, whether it be my son or anything, the former military is what spoke to me just as much. And so with that being said, when I read the questions, that what popped into my head for hiring veterans as a veteran-owned business is the opportunities are endless. And you can't say that in every business. In our industry, I mean, you're talking about not just people that work in the office and sell cars and repair our cars, but you're talking about engineers that help build our cars. You talk about marketing reps, or this industry has everything you could imagine as far as an opportunity for employment.
So before we move off of that question, let's talk about that just a little bit more. And Fred and Lou, you guys are going to get a chance to offer that as well. But Brenna, you said something that's really important. And first of all, I admire you and your family for your military service. I think that's just outstanding to see, not you just carry the torch, but your children carry the torch as well. I honestly, I admire that. And so thank you. And for everybody in your family, thank you. That's powerful. That's very, very powerful. You talked about the service drive, and then you talked about marketing. You talked about other parts of automotive. And I think in these conversations, you, me, maybe not Eliana so much, but maybe Fred and Lou, when we think of automotive, we think of the retail end. At least I do. When I hear automotive, I'm thinking about people driving cars, buying and selling cars. What we've said is super important because there is endless possibility here. Eliana, I know that you didn't sell cars, but Fred and Lou, you guys did, but you don't sell cars on a day-to-day. I sold cars. That was my entry point, but I don't sell cars on a day-to-day. And we can take that same example for a person who walks in and their skill set can go to so many different places. You talked about engineering, you talked about marketing, you talked about front end, back end. There's financial aspects. There is so much for that brain to grow within this industry. And for a lot of us, maybe the easiest point in might be retail. And then we can find, that can be like the garden that everything else grows out of, So I think it's really important that you called that out, talking about limitless opportunities and limitless potential, and not just from an income standpoint of view, but where can your future go? Where can you do something in the sector that is opposite of what we normally think of with automotive? Right. And I think it's really important. And I wish your son tremendous success. And next time I'm up in the northern part of California, I'm going to go visit you guys and your family and see it in real life. Fred, I'm going to be there because we're going to have you. I know how you take care of your employees. I've met some. I know how you take care of them. I know how they grow under your stewardship. And so I want to see more of that in real life. So I appreciate it and thank you. Fred, why should somebody coming out of a career in military think about auto?
Man, there was so many amazing things that between Eliana and Brenna, I mean, it's so hard to almost follow that up because they said pretty much everything. Those reasons that they talked about for all of us veterans, when I got out, I remember thinking, what can I do? I can go to college again. I can do this, I could do that. But, college wasn't really my thing at that time. And, so I found something that allowed me to be creative, allowed me to do all the things that I complained about when I was in the military. The things like I was like, man, I get paid this, but I work extremely hard. I wish I got paid a little bit more for my efforts, right? In a way, you kind of felt that way a little bit. Don't get me wrong, it was an honor. So please don't take it any other way. But you kind of got that feeling. Thus is why I did leave the military and I went out and tried to do things by myself because I wanted to put my work out there because I knew my work ethic was strong when I was in the military because of how strong the work ethic is. And if I was elevating above that in a lot of cases, that means, wow, what could I do if I did the same thing in the civilian sector? So automotive was a great outlet. It allowed me to use my talents, which I love talking. I love meeting people. I love helping. I love seeing people smile. I love bringing joy. I love, being creative. I love problem solving, being a solutionary, as Lou and I would call it. So for anybody who's out there, it's not just about moving metal, helping somebody buy a car, but like to the point of what Matt was saying and Eliana and Brenna is you can come in and find something in this industry. This industry is vast. When you go to an event, you'll find that out really quickly. Like there's so many elements to the way this industry is ran. It's not just the people selling cars, which to me are very important people. I love retail. It's my blood. That's where I came in the game, right? And what got me hooked into this industry. But as I'm starting to see and open up my eyes and my perspective, I'm starting to see so many different ways that this industry is affected in being effective, right? So it's a beautiful thing. You can come and be a marketer. You can come in, learn graphic design and become a designer for somebody. You can come in and be a personality and be a speaker and just talk about great things as you educate yourself and talk about what you've done in the military and how it translates. Knowing process, folks, anybody, all you veterans, we do process. We have manuals, technical orders. When I was in the Air Force, I had to open it up before I did anything on an aircraft, right? I had to have that open to that page. Even if I knew it, I had to have it open. We knew process. We had to be right with it, have integrity. We worked hard. We did it right. You all have that same thing. You get into this industry, you will shine. You will shine. This industry allows a lot of veterans and they're all over the place. If you look around the industry, CEOs all the way to people cleaning cars right now, even if that's your desire, are all over the place. So get in this industry, give it an opportunity. I promise you, you won't make a mistake if you do so. You don't need to have a college education, though it does help, but your experience, you're on the job, like being out there in real world craziness and to being here training and getting through things like basic training that a lot of people don't make it through. Just that alone. Listen, you're valuable and we need you in this industry. Come on, let's go. And that's all I have to say about that.
Matt's a little muted, Matt. Oh, good stuff, Fred. So good.
So good.
Still muted,
Matt's still muted. Matt doesn't know he's muted.
Okay, well, I was waiting for the conversation to keep going. Lou, I wanted to throw that question over to you, but I want to add something to it. Okay. And this is personal, I think, for you, and it's kind of personal for me. And hopefully we're still friends out of this. Okay. So when we did this show last year, we had talked about when you transitioned out of the military, the earning potential was great, right? When you transitioned out of the military and you got into a car dealership, one of the first paychecks that you got had been one of the biggest paychecks that you got in your life, right? And I didn't come out of the military, but when you said that, it hit, right? It really, really hit. And so the question that I want to lead you to think about is, why should somebody winding down their military career consider automotive? What can they learn in this industry besides just working well in the industry? Because if we think about it, and I think Brenna, can say as an example, and Eliana, and I certainly can say, and I've said in the past, that I would not, and I mean this intrinsically, I would not be who I am, and I like myself, I wouldn't be me if it wasn't for the things that I had learned in automotive that I don't know that I would have necessarily learned if I continued to work, in the industries that I was in. So Lou, as from a personal development standpoint, what can a person also get besides just income? What can you learn? What things that people can apply to their families? I know I didn't give you any warning for that, but I want to hear your point of view on it.
It's all good. being able to pivot as a person that comes out of the military is crucial. Just like when you're transitioning out, you're taking all of those different courses to make a transition, to find a vocation, to find where to put your hand at. The thing that is so huge about this industry is that no matter what level of income you want to be on, it teaches you how to think and operate like a business owner. And it teaches you how to start seeing what it looks like to start putting together all of the elements that make the sale transaction happen. And the thing about military personnel transitioning into that phase of life where you get all of the elements that the auto industry gives you to put together a business and to do all the peopling that business takes is that there's something that we had in the military that we had to maintain. It's called our military bearing. We had to make sure that we kept our bearing about us no matter the situation. So the level of mental strength that a soldier, an airman, a Marine, a seaman, anybody that comes through into the professional sector or the real world, right? They have a military bearing about them that makes them say, man, I've seen worse. I've dealt with worse. I've felt worse. I heard worse. I've been called worse. Especially if we're to stay in context with what we're talking about, employment after deployment. If you've actually been a military member that has been deployed, there's very few things that scare you about a customer transaction, about a problem inside of underneath an engine, or a problem inside of a personnel office. Very little starts to mess with you. And so when everybody else is on the top of the mountain on the high day or ready to jump off the mountain on a low day, those with that military bearing can get to say, wait a minute, this is a long haul. This is a long march. I have to be able to think way past this, and I cannot let this one situation affect my bearing. And when having that kind of a bearing to come into this business, you're able to look around and say, to Fred's point, there's a process there. I can easily adapt to that. Yeah. Or which is the big piece for military personnel, is there is no defined process there. I can serve something. I can create something. I can write something. I can make sure that my leadership ability comes into place now to create the manual that is not there yet. And for so many military personnel that have transitioned into the auto industry, you can almost see at the time that they showed up at a particular organization and say, this is when so-and-so showed up, and this is when the organization took this next leap forward, just by getting a little bit more organized. We all know that this industry is packed with passion. It's packed with passion. The thing about connecting that passion to the people is often the other P, and it's processes. And usually the military member that sees how business works inside of the real world recognizes how to receive after they sow into the market. They receive great, then they can sow again great. They start to recognize, wait a minute, I can weather a storm. If I can weather war, I can weather the car industry. I can weather a recession, right? It's not bullets flying in over the head. And so with that, it helps to make sure that they do find themselves as business owners and process creators that then get the chance to say, hey, that soldier, that airman, that so-and-so that came into our business, they really helped us go to the next level. And that's something that I don't think that they necessarily, and when I say they, I mean we, those transitioning in, know that, man, there is so much room for you to create in this industry and in this business, just because many people didn't see process like the military sees process. And it's a great opportunity for people to utilize that.
I mean, who can see process the way the military does? You know, it's like I fail to find it, unless your job is to create process. I can't see anybody in regular civilian clothes seeing process the way, unless you come out of like some other, you know, civil servant's job or police, fire, or something like that. You know, when getting into the automotive industry, I think, and Fred, we had talked about this in the past about, and Lou, you touched on it, the opportunity to understand how to be like a business owner without your own money out there. The opportunity to learn from business owners who've invested, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into an environment. And all you got to show up with is like your game face on and a willingness to learning how to adapt and overcome, but not just when it comes to dealing with you know, something tactical, but I have to figure out how to work with Eliana if Eliana doesn't like me. I mean, I have to,
Yes.
I
Yes.
have to. My income may be dependent upon my customer Eliana feeling comfortable doing business with me, and you learn how to do those things. I think in these spaces that you may not have that opportunity to do it on such a high stakes. I don't want to call it a poker match, but outside of it, the things the things that we learn selling cars or being in automotive, I think are transferable to our personal lives as well.
Bingo. I agree.
And by a show of hands, I don't know if anybody would agree with me or disagree with me. I understood how to buy a home because of the environment that I was in automotive. You'd see people who had bought homes, you'd see their credit report, right? You'd see people who were in the process of buying a home, and your general manager, your finance manager, and you would overhear that. You'd understand things about credit and saving and leverage. And my previous life selling cell phones, nobody was talking about credit or savings or leverage, right? But you get into an environment where the dollars are bigger, you learn things that you may not find them elsewhere. I think it's really, really important when we're talking about transitioning out. So, Brenna, I want to ask this next question to you. Do you see any parallels between being in the service and working in automotive that would make, that transition not just appealing, but very familiar? Do you see anything is there anything that lines up? And I know that Eliana is big on hierarchy, and so we're going to get to that too, but do you see anything, any parallels between being in the service and working automotive that might make the transition seem familiar? Oh, Brendan, now it's your turn. You're on mute this time.
I did that because I didn't want my phone to buzz in everybody's ear. I don't know how to mute my phone. When I saw that question, I started writing it. I'm just letting my brain speak for itself. And the thing that jumped out at me, the one that went to the top, was teamwork. And in military, you are taught to work together no matter what, whether you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong. Because if you do it wrong and you're not a team and you don't help fix your teammates' lack of making their bed right, you are all going to suffer. And in the opposite of that, if you all do it right, then you all reap the consequences. And so I think teamwork is just something that is brought into this industry, makes every car dealership, every podcast, every advertiser, everything. If you have a team that works together well, you're going to be successful. And if you're a team player, which is ingrained in you, if you're in the military, you're going to shine in this business. There's no way around it unless you don't want to.
Let's hope that everybody does want to. Eliana, what felt familiar to you coming out of the military when you transitioned into automotive?
So what felt familiar, thank you for asking me that question, because I think there's a lot in there. And as Lou said, hey, you can take those leadership skills, and Brenna saying work ethic, but the thing that really stands out to me is that when I was in the military and it was during the Gulf War, I felt like there were a lot of days, maybe you could string together 5 days, let's say, where it was the same thing that you did for 5 days in a row. But that was about it, because it constantly changed and the priorities changed. And then you had a new goal, and then you had to do this other thing, and you had to make sure, oh, we're adding something to the process now. And it was always changing. And especially if you just look at the last 3 or 4 years in the automotive industry, my goodness, has it changed. And it's not going to stay the same for the next 3 or 4 years either. And so if you want to never be bored, then the automotive industry is perfect for you, because it is constantly changing and it's constantly evolving. And now we're coming into a renaissance phase in automotive, where people are now talking about going from the typical car engine, the combustible engine, to electric. So this is something brand new, and if you're looking for an industry that's not boring, you found it. Welcome to the auto industry.
Fred, my Air Force guy, what seemed familiar to you when you got into this biz? What parallels from military time to this biz seemed familiar to you, if any?
I feel fortunate because I was a military brat my whole life. So my dad was in the Army, so I traveled all over the world. So I was kind of used to that lifestyle. So when I transitioned out, getting into the automotive industry, what I found really quick was that I made family with people, just like we did in the military. You know, you come from all different places, I mean, every one of us are just so like, I don't know how I got in automotive. It just happened. Right. And it's like, and so when you get there, we grow up together. Like I could think of Lou and I'm about a year longer than Lou in this industry. But when he came in, we were both young and we were growing and we were eager and we were hungry. And, so we, just like I would with some of my friends that I went to basic training with, technical school with, they were like, we went through stuff together. Right. Yeah. And so that feeling of that camaraderie, that brotherhood or sisterhood or family, I mean, whatever that is, you want to call it, that carried on through this industry for me. And then we find it in different levels. You see it everywhere. Now in the vendor side, as we call it, the dark side, right? Being on that side, you find that there's that same thing there. And so people coming up together, wanting to help you, and so, yeah, that felt very familiar. And I love that. And that's one of the reasons why I think I've been doing it for over 2 decades.
Lou, would you come off mute?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And before you start, I want to correct Fred, because in my opinion, you and Fred are still young. He said, we were young, we were starting. Okay, look, all of us on this call, we're still young. Okay, all right, we're still young.
Yeah.
I gotta remember, we're still young.
Awesome.
Lou,
well, still being young. That's the other thing about the military, is that it does almost keep you forever young. You still go back to that time, though. For me, it was almost 20 years ago. It still feels like it was yesterday. And just coming off of a camping trip with my kids, and some of the stuff they asked me if I wanted, if I was crazy that I was telling them to do, but like, Dad, we're not in the Boy Scouts, and you were never in the Boy Scouts. And I was like, let me remind you kids, I was in the Army. The Army, okay? But besides that, having some fun reminding them of that, the thing that did help to transition in the military, or from military into what I'm doing, or what we do in the car business, I was a logistics sergeant in the military. In the Army, I was a logistics sergeant. I spent the time that I was there mainly in a motor pool, looking at and helping out mechanics. I held the keys. So if you wanted to take the Humvee or you wanted to take the M1, you had to come to my office to get it. And the thing that was great about it is that I was helping to dispatch everybody to go complete their mission, which is the same thing that I ended up doing while sitting on the car lot, helping to connect people with their book for their car, just like the packet for the vehicle you're signing out, and their keys. Here you go. Now go where you want to go. And the reason why it's such an easy transition, or that was an easy transition, is because even still today, in doing what we're doing, we're still fighting for the freedom of other people. Because when they have those keys, when they have that opportunity to go be free, what do you feel like when you don't have a ride, when you don't have a car, when you're trapped, you don't have dependable transportation? Goodness, when we were 16 years old, that was the ultimate sign of freedom, was to be able to have our car, right? And it's the same thing that we're doing now, except now the freedom actually has a little bit more of a face. It was one thing to represent the United States of America and have it patched onto us. It's a whole other thing to read Mr. Johnson, and I see his face, and I see his his transportation that leads to his freedom. So when transitioning into this industry, we still get to fight and serve for the freedom of the people. That's what I got to say on that. Man, come on, y'all.
That was nice, Lou. And I will say this: is there anything more American than a good old-fashioned car that you want to ride down the road? Come on, let's get some pickup trucks.
Let's go.
Amen. Amen.
Well, it is true. I mean, what you talk about is that most people are not going to get into the military mentality or the military unless they have like a service or servant mentality of some sort. I mean, this isn't like 100 years ago where you can either go to jail or you can serve. Did you guys know that that's how Jimi Hendrix got into the military by chance? That's why he was in there. He had a choice. He can go to jail or he could get into the military. He chose the military. Those days are over, right? This is voluntary service now. You go in because you want to, and you're serving people. And Lou, I think that's a great connection that you are offering. You're still creating freedom for people. It must be in you to want to serve, and you're still creating that same freedom for people now, just on a much more tactical and granular way. I love that. We're going to be talking a lot about that as over the next couple of weeks and months, because you're going to see that clip on replay. I guarantee you. All right, now we're coming up on time, so I think I'm going to get to and this next question is a little bit. It's not as introspective. It's much more tactical, but I think it's one of the most important questions that we're going to tackle today. as we talk about getting people who are in the military to consider automotive. Brenna, with the exception of you, because you have a very different background than the rest of us, did any of us look at military, or did any of us look at the automotive industry as our goal destination when we were in high school, college, or military? Were we looking for that?
Nope.
And if we were in a room of 100 automotive professionals, what percentage of that 100 automotive professionals would say, when I was in 5th grade on the jungle gym, I knew back then that I wanted to sell Camaro? Nobody, right?
No, no, Matt,
None
are
of
you
us.
serious right now?
None of
No
us.
one says, no one's in 5th grade saying, man, I can't wait to go sell me my first car. Like, no one
Nobody
does
does
that.
So if
No.
nobody does that, and knowing that military members were also 5th graders on the jungle gyms at some point, right? We can't leave it to chance that this is inherently a destination location. We have to tell people that this can be a destination location when your time in the military is done, right? So that falls on people, the shoulders of people like us in conversations like this. But it also falls on the shoulders of employers. So how do we encourage employers to proactively attack reaching out to military, like we see, people talking about? I think if you guys are all on social, one of our friends in the industry said just a couple of days ago, if I owned a dealership, I'd be going to every Chick-fil-A and trying to steal their employees. You guys might have seen that post, right? And we always talk about taking people, because Chick-fil-A apparently has great customer service, right? We always talk about stealing people out of retail and hospitality and maybe even out of education, but I don't hear it widely military. So how do we encourage people to go after people transitioning out of the automotive space with the same energy that they do for grabbing people from Chick-fil-A?
I'm pretty sure I gave a long list of why you should go
I
after
mean, from like a
military
recruitment
veterans.
standpoint.
But that being said, I remember standing on stage once, and I remember I was probably in front of 100 people, and I literally said, "Hey, show of hands, how many people thought that yes, I wanted to come into the auto industry?" Like they had it in their head that yes, they were coming into the auto. And out of that 100 people or so, like literally 2 raised their hands, and both of them were second generation, like their father was a dealer or their mom was a dealer. Like they had a dealership in their family, and that's how they wound up in the auto industry. But for the rest of us, including myself, it was no, I accidentally fell into the auto industry, right? And I said, good, you 98 people, you're just like me. But then I followed it up and I said, so how long have you been here? And not one person in the room said that they were in automotive for less than 10 years. They came into automotive and they fell in love with it. And they stayed just like me. And I'm pretty sure all of us have been in the auto industry longer than 10 years, right? I mean, I'm on my 15th year, I think, right? So, if you're looking for a career, it's a great place for you to land, my fellow military brothers and sisters. But if you're an employer, some tactical things, I love the word tactical, things that you can do if you're anywhere close to a military base. Sometimes when people transition out, guess what? They don't want to leave. They've made a life there. So if you're near a military base, it might be your perfect opportunity. You could drop, some social media posts, definitely put it in your ads. Absolutely. Also geofence it, because those people who work in that motor pool like Lou did, they would make fantastic technicians at your dealership. And we know there's a huge deficit for auto technicians. Listen, when we were talking, I went in when I was young. I was 17 when I went in. How crazy is that? Now I look at 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I can't believe I was ever that young and already in the military. Leadership is something you can be exposed to, and you can take that for yourself. You can be exposed to diversity and inclusion, and you take that in and you you use it and you use all that. You can learn all those great skills. You go to the schooling, but you learn all that other stuff, right? But you can't learn strong work ethic. You can be exposed to it, but you can't learn that, and that is something that you take with yourself and you bring to wherever you go, along with those skills, that knowledge, that leadership. So it's a perfect marriage for both sides. Both of you will win, both the employer and the military veteran. It's a perfect fit. You just have to be exposed enough to say, I never thought about going to the automotive industry, but here we are. And you know what? Once you do, you're probably going to stay.
That's right.
You know what? That's exactly how it goes when people are looking for a career, or at least it's been in my case, same as yours. Nobody said I wanted to do it.
Right.
We got into this industry some roundabout way, with the exception of Brenna. And Brenna, you're up next, so I'm letting you know we're going to be talking in just a second. But the most of us find this industry in a roundabout way, but we find that there's so much value in it that we stick around. But we need I don't want to tell anybody what they need to do, but it would be beneficial if our employers in this space would also, ring that horn. And Brenna, you're a little bit different because, you are a car dealership family, right? So you've probably been exposed to the good and bads prior to, earlier in life than most of the rest of us. But with that in mind, thinking about military you and thinking about your military sons, if you weren't in the industry, what do you think it would take to get your attention to consider this industry? And could we encourage our folks in the industry to maybe follow that?
Well, that wasn't on my list of questions. That's not fair.
I know.
Put me on the spot.
I know. But what do we need to do to get better, to attract more?
I think we need to stand on the mountaintop. We stand on, we're searching for Chick-fil-A. Why aren't we searching for our military and our veterans? That it's a complete untapped resource as far as the benefit that we in an industry would reap the benefits from. They bring the morals and ethics that our industry lacks, just because of the stereotype that so I'm a used car dealer. Sometimes it's hard to tell people I'm a used car dealer. I'm proud of who I am and what I've done, but because of the stereotype that's been put on our industry, sometimes it's like, I'm a used car dealer.
I'm an independent business owner, right?
Yeah, but I think, and starting with myself, my ads need to say, I think they do, veteran owned, veteran ran.
Amen.
We try to participate in everything that goes on in our community that's got to do with our veterans. And I think we just need to be on the mountaintop. We as former military, we as veterans need to say, hire us, people that look like us, that were in the military. People look at me and probably Eliana and say, you were in the military? Yes. And I too joined when I was 17. My parents told me to shape up or ship out. And I said, I'll show you.
So you shipped out.
Yes.
And I think too, when you do have somebody who is a veteran on your team, when it comes time, whether it's Veterans Day or it's Memorial Day or it's Independence Day, whenever you have the opportunity to sing their praises and say, hey, this is the 5-year anniversary of Joe in our service bay. He's a former U.S. Navy SEAL, whatever we want to say. And we give them a shout out on social media. And that signals to other veterans who might be in that social circle, hey, there's my buddy Joe. He seems happy. He's been there for 5 years. But it also, the first place that new people who are looking for a job, the first place they look is social media. It's like 87% of people check out businesses on social media before they decide to apply for a job. So even if they see your job listing and you say, hey, we're friendly to military people, definitely encouraged to apply, they still will check you out on social. So being military friendly on your social media will definitely play a role in attracting more military members as well.
That's a heck of a point, Eliana. Here, one of the things that we do at TrueCar is we do spotlights. I think Lou's had one. Eliana's got one coming up. Fred's got ones coming up. Brenna's got one coming up. and we do spotlights of people who are in the automotive industry who were or who are also veterans. And we want people to see these things so they can understand like there is a space and there is a place. And so I think that you nailed it. It's like, I think you both nailed it, Brenna, particularly you with talking about screaming it from mountaintops, right? And our screaming it from mountaintops is using the might and strength of social media, highlighting those people and sharing those people. I think maybe the next step is with that is maybe a highlight, and I'm just thinking out loud here, of what makes them like the industry so much. Not just a spotlight on Fred or Lou, but Fred or Lou, tell the world why you like it so much. So you've got a commitment from this guy at TrueCar. I've been doing it for a couple of years, and I'm going to continue to do it for a couple more years.
We honor that.
We believe the same thing. We want everybody to scream it from mountaintops. Fred, I want to tell you something. I'm going to put you on the spot, okay?
Okay.
You may not know this about me. I used to be a firefighter. And I was a firefighter in the city of
Thank you.
for a very, very short time.
Appreciate that, man.
Position, I loved it. I wish my back would have agreed a little bit longer. Maybe we wouldn't have met, but my back was my culprit out. But when you're going through that process and you're interviewing, people are scored. You can score anywhere from a 0 to 100. 100 is the top score that you can get if you're interviewing, unless you're in the military. Because if you're in the military, you can earn 105. As soon as you apply for a civil service job in many of the municipalities in the Los Angeles area, at least, you are given a slight advantage right off the top compared to everybody else who has not served. And I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about, are there implications in our industry? Do we tell our military members, or could we tell our military members, that there actually is not just encouraged to apply, but there's no hiding it. You get 5% bonus if you have been in the military. Could we adopt that in some way when we're looking to recruit to tighten us up? I don't know that we can, but I'm saying that to you and Fred because I know, or you and Lou, because I know that you guys spend a lot of time with dealers, and I know attrition's a concern, and I know people are concerned about that. So just think about that. A slight basis bump just because you've served in the military. How does that sound to you, Fred? Does that sound reasonable?
You know, I don't think that sounds unreasonable. I think that's very creative. I think that's kind of, going to bring up a story about Lou, and Lou can talk about it if he wants to also. But when he came out, he almost went into a civil service job, U.S. Post Office, right? He was going to be a postman. And they were to give him. Now, the thing about that is they give you that time in service. So if you go over and transfer, if you did 4 years, you start off like you did 4 years already in the postal service. So your retirement comes sooner than most, right? And you also get the benefits that somebody 4 years in would get. So do I think that's an amazing way to do it? I think that's a very creative way. I think I've never even thought about that before, but yeah, I think that would attract people. Hey, listen, my average salesperson here is going to get 25%. Let's just throw a number out there, right? When you come in, you get 30%. As because you're military, we're going to give you that as whatever, right? Whatever that is, or maybe there's you find it somewhere to give them a benefit to come in. Now, do I think that it'll attract more military? I think so. I do believe that people will be like, hold on, they care about me enough to pay me more, and they appreciate the time that I served. Yeah, I think that would be very attractive. I think that I want to just add in really quick, and I won't take long, but I think that the associations, the NADA, the NIADA, and any other big association needs to get more involved with the government, with the military side of it, and say, hey, when people are out processing, we want to be part of that process. Just at least be able to put in some information for them to see that, hey, this is something that they can do, even if it's just a little trifold that they get inside their little out processing thing, something for them to be educated in, a short video that we could throw in talking about the benefits when they're out processing. I think that would be massive for automotive. And I think that would cost us almost nothing. And it would give everything to people and give them an opportunity, and it would be put them right there. So everybody, if you were out processing the Air Force, you have to do all these things. We all know what it's like, especially today. They got all this stuff for us. They should have that for you to not just see that these other technical jobs, but hey, this is a job. This is a great career, a lifestyle, an opportunity to become an entrepreneur maybe one day, right? So I think starting there, I just wanted to throw that in really quick. I think that if we can get the associations to jump in on that somehow and help us get there, because I know they got people over in Washington, so hopefully they can make that happen.
I love that idea, Fred, especially since, and I think I said this before, 2/3 of military veterans, military people that are transitioning out, 2/3 don't have a job lined up. That is, what other way to say it? Easy pickings. That's a lot of people, great employees ready to happen. 2/3 of people coming out of the military, that's a lot. And so I hope businesses start paying more attention to hiring them. I hope the military starts paying more attention and knowing that automotive, not only one of the strongest industries in the United States, but one of the most forward thinking as well, is ready to accept them. And like I said before, it's a perfect match. We just got to get them to meet.
Heck yeah. Because I had no idea when I got out. I found it by meeting somebody that was in the industry. And I was like, hold on. I think that if he can do it, I can do it. And that's basically how I found out about it. So,
Lou, jump in.
I mean, just to add to that, because that is a great way for the military to be able to point their people transitioning out in a direction to go, which is generally what is happening. They are being pointed into the different vocations or things that they want to do as they get out of the military. And to Eliana's point, so many of them still jump out and really don't know where to go. So they take something that seems stable, and we all know what it's like, especially being on this side of the auto industry. So many things that seem stable are almost a crutch. You're stuck there, and then you're going in a rigmarole circle of never really feeling like a professional again. Well, in the military, that's a big piece of what I was encouraged with, coming into the Army and being told, you're now a professional child. I'm an 18-year-old kid that has no education, like we're almost no education, right? And being told you're a professional and you're in charge of all of that. Well, you can come into this industry. This isn't like going and being another professional. I can't just transition out of the Army and now I'm a doctor unless I was working in JAG as an attorney. I can't become a doctor unless I was in the military as a doctor, right? And so when coming out of the military and still wanting to say, I am a professional, I can jump inside of a profession that still serves. Yes, let me know about that. And to Fred's point, if we do get very vocal, whether we have NADA or NIADA or the powers that be, the attorney generals, whoever it is, inside of the areas that want to do what it takes to make that part of it, you dealers that are local can be intentional about your local military bases and say, hey, we're contributing to the 100. Community. Let us be part of your out processing for your dealers and at least welcome them to us. That would be an incredible opportunity for people to just have the knowledge of it. I mean, we know what it's like inside of high schools during a career day, and we see all of these different companies that are represented. So the Marines are going to have their pull-up bar, right? Their Army guys are going to have their rope to climb, and then the linemen are going to have their hoisting trucks, right, to do their things, their cherry pickers. So everybody's going to have their opportunity to be represented there. The thing is that it's a career day in out processing for the military too, when they're trying to figure out those 2 months beforehand, what are they going to do? I have a son that's in the Air Force that is staying in the Air Force because he doesn't want to transition out. And he said, Dad, I might go do cars, I might sell cars, but I love what I'm doing. And now he's right now in Japan, taking care of an aircraft, doing his thing. He's got his people. He's a tech sergeant in the Air Force, but he loves doing what he does and wants to be able to see that transition right for him. And we all knew what that was like as coming out. Well, what's it really going to look like? And to your point, Eliana, and to your point, Brenna, when understanding what it looked like when people saw this industry, the car business or the military, man, not a lot of people were barking at it, but there is that Lieutenant Dan syndrome where it's, hey, my dad served, my mom served, I'm going to serve. That was military, right? That became the thing. Well, it also was a similar scenario for the industry. We didn't have a lot of 5-year-olds except for 5-year-olds that looked at mom and dad and said, I'm going to sell me a Chevy. I'm going to sell me a whatever. When it's time, I'm going to do that. Those were the ones saying that they would do it, just like in the military. right? And when we start to recognize that we can find our way into the different sectors to let them know how great this industry is, goodness, and the doors are wide open. We just got to go. I mean, you can't, pets and vets. Everybody loves the pets and vets. Well, you can't hire a whole lot of service dogs. You can't hire a bunch of service dogs to do what you do in the automotive industry, you can hire some service vets that have done their thing and are very excited to add a little bit more service. But you got to go out. You got to be intentional. You got to tell them. It always comes back to that. If you're not intentional about going to get those people, you're not going to find them, and they're not going to find you.
And before we wrap up, we would be remiss if we didn't include the importance of military spouses in our conversations, of military families in our conversations, right? Well, we've got this military member that we're looking to recruit. We also need to make sure that their spouses are taken care of. Creating opportunities for them to thrive, because we know that spouses and children serve almost just like the member themselves, right? Lou, when I was looking at you and I was looking at you talking about your son, I was like, yeah, Lou's still in it, right? Lou's still in the military. His son he's still in the military. So as we go out there and we have our dealers talking about this and we have other automotive spaces talking about this, let's make sure that we focus on our military families, or our members, but let's not forget our families, because that's who a lot of us are doing this for, right? So let's keep that in mind. Special shout out to, if you want to see an example of somebody who's doing a really good job, Google VetNet, they're doing a great job. They have a virtual career fair where they bring in folks from all over talking about, hey, here's some opportunities for you, transitioning's out. TrueCar, we can do our vet. Fred, Brenna, Eliana, Lou, we can all do our, we just got a note from Vernon E. Davis, who says, as a fellow veteran in the automotive space, we do need more veterans in this industry. So Vernon, I'm calling you out. If you're watching this right now, commit like the rest of us to do our part to bring somebody in, because it's not just good for the veteran, it's good for our industry. It makes good business sense, and it is the right thing to do. Fred, Eliana, Brenna, Lou, I want to monopolize your time, but I will not. I appreciate you on behalf of TrueCar for the time that you've dedicated to this conversation. I know that you guys are all real gangster about this conversation. It's real for you. So thank you for everything that you've done and everything that you're going to continue to do, and bigging us up. And until we do this again next year, okay? As you said, Eliana, we did this last year. We're doing it this year, and we're going to do it next year. So until I see you guys next year, keep rocking, and thank you for everything that you do. And I couldn't appreciate you more.
All right, fellow military brothers and sisters, let's give that nice salute to everyone.